Hey everyone, it's Monday and it's Weather for Weather Geeks time on this Monday. We've got a lot of good meteorological information to show you today, so let's get right to it. We'll start, of course, with a recap of what happened yesterday into last night. This is a map showing the official storm reports that were reported to the National Weather Service. Red T's are tornadoes, blue W's damaging wind reports, and there were a few green H's for hail, especially in Illinois and into southern Wisconsin. But by far and away, this was a wind event, especially east of central Indiana. We had one report of a tornado just southeast of Columbus. I haven't seen quite yet how strong that tornado might have been. I suspect it was pretty weak. But you'll notice all the W's here, ton of damaging wind reports with the system, and so this played out pretty much as we expected. This was never going to be a big tornado threat for areas this far to the east. The ingredients just weren't there. The ingredients were there for damaging winds, and we have seen a lot of reports since last night of trees down, scattering of power outages as well, and the wind speeds last night, again, went pretty much as we expected. We had some gusts that topped out around 40 to 50 miles per hour. I'll show you a wind map in just a second. But the damaging wind reports really got more scattered as you got east of our viewing area, east of I-79 over into Pennsylvania, as the line did weaken somewhat as it moved through the high ground of PA. Well, this storm that was responsible for all of the destruction yesterday is now in Canada, and look how strong this thing is. Let me pan up here. Here's the center of this low, right up here at the tip of Hudson Bay. Look at all the isobars, the lines of equal pressure around this thing. They're almost hard to see. There's so many of them. So this thing is really what we call bombed out. The minimum central pressure down to about probably 965, 966 millibars right now, and that is really, really strong for a non-tropical system. So this thing really wound up once it got into Canada. Thankfully, again, let me show you this map one more time. We didn't see any tornadoes around here. This was really unfortunate and heartbreaking out in Illinois, especially with some towns completely leveled. We've seen some really dramatic pictures coming out of Illinois and Indiana. And, some people might say this is tremendously unusual for November. It is somewhat unusual, yes, but November can bring tornadoes. November sometimes brings a secondary severe weather season to parts of the country. As winter tries to take hold, summer and fall are, kind of hesitant to give up their grip, and that battle zone can produce a secondary severe weather season. And unfortunately, that's what we did see yesterday was an outbreak of severe weather in November. In case you missed this over the weekend, I have launched a weather blog, kind of another outlet for me to post weather information. This will allow me to kind of go more in depth than I can on Facebook and certainly on Twitter, where you're only allowed 140 characters. I'm not going to post on this multiple times a day probably like I do Facebook or Twitter, but when I have something more substantial to say that might take a few paragraphs, if I've got a lot of pictures to show and don't want to make your Facebook feed or Twitter feed too busy, I'll post it on here. And to find this, go to ericwfmj.com, ericwfmj.com. You have the option on the right-hand side of subscribing to it, so you get an email notification whenever I post something new. If you'd like to do that, feel free to do so. So ericwfmj.com. This morning I posted some of the pictures we got, both of storm damage and of a nice sunrise at Guilford Lake this morning. And I'll always post this video, Weather for Weather Geeks, on the blog, another place to find it, in addition to wfmj.com/weather, which is our station weather page. Anyway, self-promotion over. Let's talk about the wind speeds last night. Here are the peak wind gusts, and this is a combination of official National Weather Service reporting sites such as airports and backyard weather stations like I have that upload their data to the internet. Now typically those backyard stations will not have as high of wind speeds as official ones because, like mine, this is in a neighborhood. It's being blocked by houses and trees and whatnot. So the anemometer, usually doesn't pick up on the true wind speed in more populated areas. But nonetheless, there's a 43 out here as you get out towards Berlin Center. We're going to ignore the 255 right there. Up at the Youngstown Warren Airport, we had a 49 mile per hour gust. That's this one right here. Cortland about 40, 44 over Newton Falls, 46 at the small airport, the municipal airport over in Newcastle. And so, we advertised, wind speeds could get pretty close to 50, perhaps even 60 miles per hour, and that really did bear itself out last night. We had a lot of 50 mile per hour plus wind gusts as you got over towards I-77 from Cleveland down towards Akron and Canton. All right, what's going to happen as we go into the future? We're done with the past. Let's put this behind us and talk about the future. I do think as we get into this evening, as a kind of a weak secondary front slips in from the north, there could be a sprinkle or even a few flurries around. Most of this will be north of I-80 up into Trumbull County. Don't be surprised if you get a quick sprinkle this evening and overnight see a few snowflakes flying around up in Farmdale and Cortland and heading way up into northern Trumbull County. Not going to accumulate, but you might see a few snowflakes. And then the weather looks quiet for generally the rest of the week, and then we got some changes coming towards the end of the week and the weekend. Temperatures this week, very seasonable, very typical of November. We're going to be in the 40s. As we head towards the weekend, another strong cold front's going to head our way. And here's Friday's map. Now, this will be rain on Friday. Probably not a ton of it, but there will be some rain with low pressure here, a little warm front sticking out on the east side of this. So plan on kind of a damp end of the week, and then the cold air is going to make inroads into the weekend. Here's Saturday afternoon. Low pressure is pushing off to the east, cold front trailing behind it, and that looks like a real cold wind blowing in from the north and west on Saturday. We might see some snow flurries before the end of the day on Saturday. And then what probably will be the coldest air mass of the season so far comes down Sunday and into Monday. There's going to be lake effect snow showers mixed in with this, and as is typical in lake effect situations. Anyone could see an inch out of this, but certainly north of I-80 and especially up into northern Trumbull County, we might be dealing with several inches of lake effect snow a week from right now. We're talking about next Monday, so be prepared. Coldest air of the season so far is coming down. And I'll wrap things up showing you the European model temperature depiction heading out into next week and into Thanksgiving. We're going to pay attention to this top chart. Now, it's going to warm up at the end of this week. On Friday, we might get into the 50s. But then look at this drop coming our way for the weekend. Temperatures probably go nowhere on Saturday. And then here's Sunday right here. And the chart, the scale is just off your screen, so I apologize for that. But basically, temperatures on Sunday will probably hold in the 20s. We're not going to get out of the 20s on Sunday. Lake effect snow, gusty winds, yikes. Wintry day coming up on Sunday. And then a slow climb out of that cold air mass for the rest of next week. And at this point, 10 days out for Thanksgiving, it's looking seasonable. Too early to say whether we'll get precipitation or not, but at this point, it doesn't look tremendously warm or cold either way for Thanksgiving. Well, that's weather for Weather Geeks on this Monday. My forecast can be found once again tonight on 21 News at 6 and 11. I hope to see you then, and I'll post another weather for Weather Geeks Tuesday afternoon. See you then.